The other thing we introduced then is supply curve. Likewise, we did with demand. You could explain why the law of supply works. The law of supply says if the price of something rises, then suppliers, right, so the people who are bringing this good to the market, will supply more of it. You could invoke all sorts of models to prove that, and in other economic subjects you would. In this class we won't. We're just going to wave our hands and say it's so. That's it. So that's all you have to know, is the supply curve is upward sloping, meaning as the price goes up, people supply more. We're going to use exactly the same words again, right? So we're going to have a price change, meaning you read a price change off on the vertical axis here, is a shift along the supply curve. Just like we had a price change was a shift along the demand curve. Here, a shift along the supply curve is telling you as the price goes up, supplies bring more to the market. So here in this case, if the price in the market went up from $3 to $4, then suppliers are willing to bring 1,300 units to the market, whatever it is. Doesn't really matter. This is all kind of context free. All the economists will then do is say, aha, quantity here is ice cream. Quantity here is fig Newtons. Quantity here is new homes. Quantity here is college degrees. Quantity here is, and they'll just keep using the same tool over and over again with a different thing being talked about, perhaps a different price being used up there. But demand and supply is said still represent the supply of something and the demand of something. So the demand are the people who buy it, and the supply are the people who sell it into the market. Okay, why did the supply curve shift up, which would be a good first question in this case, and my answer is don't worry. You don't need to know in this class. Cleanse your mind, relax, and just let it flow. Assume that it is so. That's it. Well, you could apply a bit of intuition there. You could think, okay, let's say you were selling stuff. Like you made widgets, and you sold them in a market. And all of a sudden, someone says, hey, widgets don't go for $300 anymore. Widgets go for $400. The question is, you'll make widgets. Say you make them at home in your little craft shop with your happy little elves. Tap away, making widgets every day. And now you're told, dude, not 300, we're buying them at 400. What do you do? Well, you might think, Wednesday night poker nights doesn't look like such a good thing. Hell, if I didn't go to Wednesday night poker nights and instead spent 3 hours at home making more widgets, I'd have another $1,000 a week. Maybe you might skip breakfast in the morning or race into your wood shop and make more widgets. But you wouldn't ordinarily think someone might say, hey, 300 to 400, maybe I'll make less of them. Because, I don't really need money. I certainly don't need more of it.
Depends on what you're willing to give up.
It is, absolutely. And in fact, it becomes, if you guys go and do labor economics, you'll talk about what's called a backward bending supply curve, where in fact exactly that happens. If people tend to think, actually I like having my leisure time and I really like going to poker nights, what I may do is work less and go to poker nights 3 nights a week rather than 2. And I can do that and because the price has gone up. But yes, we're going to neglect that. That's actually a complication. This class I've tried to remove all complications, so we're just going to treat it as an upward sloping supply curve like this. As the price goes up, more people supply more things. But yeah, good point. And like I said, you can develop all sorts of models. There's economists have lots of nice models / machinery maths that they can prove all these things, and I could whip the models out and show you guys, but I don't actually think it's worth anything. Because I think actually what's more important is the intuition rather than knowing, gee, Rod can do a lot of math. So again, likewise, we're going to have thinking about shifts along and shifts off with the demand curve. We're going to have shifts along and shifts of the supply curve. And again, we'll be thinking about here, say, a shift to the right. So again, ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus means only price changes. So when we're moving along the supply curve, say S0, what we're thinking is how much the supplier is willing to supply in this market if nothing other than the price of this widget or whatever it is that they're selling changes. And that's what the supply curve tells you. But as soon as something else changes, like maybe the metal to go into the widgets to make them, if that changes, then that's going to affect the entire supply curve, because that's going to change the whole decision making around your decision to supply, because the metal's now cheaper. So you could make more of it at the same cost and sell more if you're thinking about yourself as a supplier. In that case, we're thinking of a shift off. So again, we're thinking at the same price as before, say $3. Instead of suppliers willing to bring 750 to the market, they're willing to bring 1,000 units. And again, think about yourself in that position. You're producing crocheted baby mittens at home because you just love crocheting. And all of a sudden, the price of wool goes up, or the price of wool goes down. How do you behave as a supplier of crocheted baby mittens? So that's what I want you to be thinking about in terms of the logic of this sort of story here. How do you act as a supplier?